Unity has a very soft spot in my heart. HeartMath has done so much work with various Unity ministers over the years. I actually was telling Katie this morning, I actually helped create a Sunday school curriculum years ago based upon HeartMath. That's another long story. But I was noting, and I note this every time I speak at a Unity church, when I don't speak at many churches, but Unity, because it's had such a deep connection with HeartMath, I do enjoy the connection and the people who are drawn into this environment. And just the songs we sing, and there's so much discussion and emphasis and talk about the heart and the love in our heart. And that's true in religions throughout the world. And what we've found in HeartMath is that let's just focus on that a little bit more, because the mysteries of the heart are now being scientifically uncovered. And they're confirming what we all really know deep inside our heart. And what we all really know in terms of what's heartfelt, heartful, heart-connected. And what we all really know when we're told, go deep inside your heart for the answer. These long-held, assumed metaphors of the heart, or even the other side, heartache, heartbreak. All of these illusions or connections to the heart truly do have now a physiological, scientific underpinning that mainstream science is starting to recognize. And I think one of the reasons this is so important, and one of the missions and visions of HeartMath, was to be able to say, is there a connection between the spiritual emotional states and the physical heart in a way that can be peer-reviewed, researched, validated, so more and more people can say, oh, I should be connecting with my heart, not just my brain-mind. So more people in all walks of life can realize that the heart is truly a source of intelligence. We know it's a source of power in the sense that the heartbeat is putting out 2.5 watts with every beat. It is the most incredible power generator in our body. And that heartbeat, every beat, is radiating an electromagnetic field that can be measured several feet of the way out from the body with current instrumentation. My own intuitive heart says it goes a lot farther than that, even on a non-local quantum level. And I'll give you a little bit of the research behind that because Susan asked me to. But the fact that our heart is this magnificent generator of energy, it is also a generator of information. And that is what science is starting to discover. So to create a heart-based world, which I think all of us in our own hearts, I'm going to use that word a lot, want and sense is needed for us to feel more connected and loving and kind and compassionate and forgiving and all these qualities of spirit or qualities of the heart that we treasure and have been talked about for millions of years, really, in humanity. In recorded history, it's thousands of years, but it goes back farther. We need to be able to take our simulating mind and intellect that we've developed as a society for the past several hundred years and begin to focus on what is this heart? What is it all about? And that's truly what the research of HeartMath is about. So to create this heart-based world, we need to understand what the heart is, or it will stay in the domain of philosophy, of metaphor, of religion. And of religions, all of whom talk about the heart, that just are so hooked into their belief systems, they're fighting each other, and have done for eons. And yet the heart is the great unifier. So Doc Childrey, the founder of HeartMath, was deep in his own meditations assessing the condition that I've just described. And this was way back in the early 1970s, and he had a vision of what the world was going to be going through over the next 40, 50 years. Here we are 40 years later. And that stress would be increasing tremendously. The planet would be going through all sorts of shifts, not just with wars and disturbances on the emotional level, but all sorts of earth changes, whether volcanic activity, earthquake activity. We've always had it, but there's an increased amount. But this was all part of a huge shift going on. It was related to forces and energies outside of the Earth system as the Earth is unfolding, evolving to as an entity to another level or dimension of consciousness. And us humans are here to participate in that, to align with that, to connect with that, to co-create with that, if we choose. This is a planet of choice. And the choice to connect with love, to go to the heart, is something that won't be bestowed upon us. It's something that has to come from us. And so in order to facilitate that whole transition that Doc saw, he was also told in his vision that there need to be some science, a bottom line, a foundation. And so he invited myself and others to help him start the Institute of Heart Math to see if we could find the connections between the spiritual heart and the physical heart. And our research in 1995 was published in the American Journal of Cardiology, the breakthrough research showing the first time where emotional state could be seen and that pathway connection into the physical heart. Now there's 4 pathways by which the heart communicates with the body. And emotion is involved in at least 3 of them that we've researched. And one of those pathways has to do with the nervous system of the heart, brain connection. And the autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetic and sympathetic, that actually control the heartbeat, is very, very affected by emotional state. And some of you may know this aspect of the heart math research. How many people are familiar with heart math? Most of you. I'm going to do just a quick overview and then make the connections to the spiritual heart and the intuitive heart. So when your heart rhythm pattern is very regular and jagged, it's reflecting often frustration, anger, anxiety, the stressful emotions we all experience. And when your heart rhythm pattern is very sine wave-like and smooth and ordered, usually that means we're in a state of peace, love, compassion, genuine care, gratitude, all the qualities of spirit, qualities of heart that fulfill our heart, that connect us with more of our spirit and who we are. And so that window into the soul, you could say, that window in the heart rhythm, was actually published in a peer-reviewed, regular scientific journal. And we consider that a breakthrough in terms of bridging spirit and humanness, and in our mission and vision to find the correlations to the physical heart and create the bottom line science needed to create a heart-based world. And so HeartMath developed tools and techniques and training programs based upon that discovery, that what we call that beautiful sine wave-like pattern is heart coherence, because it's a coherent waveform, and that feeling state that creates that coherent waveform actually signals the brain and the higher perceptual centers of the brain, the frontal lobes, the executive decision-making areas, the parts of the brain that balance the right and left hemispheres, the intuitive, bigger picture parts of the brain get activated by activating love, care, compassion, appreciation, kindness, forgiveness, all the qualities of spirit. So there's a pathway that when we choose from our own free will of our mind to connect with those qualities, those attitudes, those feelings, the heart rhythm changes. And the heart sends a signal back to the brain that creates cortical facilitation, synchronizing cortical function, and enabling our brain-mind to open to bigger connections. So this was very exciting. We've published in many, many journals over the years, and slowly through society, including all 4 branches of U.S. Armed Forces who use HeartMath training for resilience training. We don't talk about all this spiritual stuff there. We talk about resilience, that when you get into that heart coherent waveform, you have more heart-brain synchronization. You are more poised, you're more composed, you make better decisions. There's cortical facilitation. Your executive decision-making abilities become clearer. You have more access to real common sense and real intuition. And that is the languaging we've learned over the years for every segment of society. It was an expression of our love and care to learn how to language the voice of the heart, the science of the heart for each segment of society. From corporations, which want more productivity and performance, so we do pre and post assessments as people learn the heart map tools. And Motorola filed 3 times the amount of patents in the division that learned that. To sports performance, people want to get in the zone training. That's heart-brain synchronization, it starts there. To health professionals and healthcare systems who wanted to help people with these stress-related diseases that are really costing us a lot of financial burden as well as emotional pain. And seeing that when people got themselves in sync, not only did they make better lifestyle choices, they were more empowered to make choices guided by their heart's intelligence, their intuition. They also had more ability to not choose what was deeply imprinted, that addictive patterns. Because that heart rhythm pattern, that coherent wave, also signals the amygdala, which is the emotional memory center in the brain. And when we feel stressed, that incoherent pattern triggers the amygdala to say, let's do what we have learned to do under stress. Overeat, drink, scream, blame ourselves. It's all habit patterns. But when we're in that heart coherent state, the signal to the amygdala is the body's in harmony. Everything's okay. So now we have more heart power available to be able to say, you know, my heart's telling me right now I don't need to do that. The ability to just say no to some of those addictive thought loops and impulses comes from the power of the heart. The mind without the power of the heart is very flimsy. Thought without the coherent emotion of the heart is very weak in manifestation. But when we can get lined up and coherent, then our intentions, our manifestations, our prayers, our invocations, our affirmations have the physiological power of heart, brain, and nervous system lined up behind them. And when we're in sync, the hormonal system comes more into balance. The immune system comes more into balance. The autonomic nervous system in sync is amazing because it controls 90% of the body's functions. And when we're out of sync, and that becomes a habit through stress that is not addressed, then we see all of the mental confusion and the emotional chaos and the relationship problems and the health problems we're seeing played out in society today. But the good news is we can reboot and reset our inner computer, our heart-brain system very quickly. And that's what the heart map tools were all intentionally designed to help people do. And at the same time, language in the understanding of a doctor, stress relief, improve emotional balance. Or language in the way teachers can understand it. Heart Math's in over 1,000 schools in the United States, where it's about learning and teaching children emotional self-management. So they come to school more emotionally balanced and prepared to learn. And they can learn some simple tools to reduce test anxiety and improve test scores, because that's what schools want these days. But I look at heart math as the Trojan horse, whether it's in our technology that people use to release stress and improve performance, or the techniques, or where it's embedded in programs in the military. It's a Trojan horse to help people connect with their heart. Because that's all we're trying to achieve. Because from there, your own spirit, whoever you are, and soul will start to unfold your way. So the whole purpose of Heart Math is to help people connect more deeply with their real heart as the portal to their higher self, soul, spirit, source, whatever you want to call it, who they really are. And we see this happening. I mean, the stories that come back, and I use the military because it's such an opposite example of what our minds would think anybody would be focusing on. Heart. Because most of the times in business, among engineers, among military personnel in the past, it's like the heart is this squishy, soft thing. How is it ever going to be able to be powerful and centered and really do what's needed in the military? But we don't go in through that door. We go in through the door of presence, of situational awareness, of being able to be more aware of your buddies and more aware of the bigger picture so you make better choices and be more resilient and healthier and manage stress and manage those emotions that can take you out of whack and actually cause you to do something you might later regret. So that's the language that appeals, that people can understand, that confirms, yes, this makes sense. But once they touch the heart, the stories are amazing. The stories that come from all walks of life, with people connecting more with their higher self and spirit or their guidance, whether they call it that or not. Oftentimes they just call it their heart intelligence. Real safe term. So creating heart-based world to us was about planting seeds or yeast in all of these aspects of society, and then watching it leaven, nurturing it, and allowing the heart and the intelligence and power of the heart with science under it and practical tools to unfold. And now is the time. People need new language. Everyone's yearning to connect in another way. We know something has to change. And from this larger perspective, I see these changes happening in society as incredible adventure. It's happening so fast, and it can look through one lens like, oh my God, the world's falling apart. The planet's going to hell in a handbasket. The Earth's erupting and burping and creating all these changes because people have just poisoned it. And while that is true from different dimensional views, there's a much bigger dimension that as the heart and spirit and love is flowing and awakening and there's facilitation, all that old stuff has to come to the surface in ourselves as well. How many of you have felt, my God, I thought I was finished with that all these years, and here it is?
True.
Right? But that's what's supposed to be happening. And now with the seasoning you have, you are more mature and ready to attract the tools and techniques and help and facilitation you need to finally complete that out. If you don't beat yourself up for having it. If you don't judge yourself. If you aren't self-critical, because all those create stress and they shut out your higher connection with your frontal lobes and your cortical facilitation. They create cortical inhibition, so there is no way you are going to ever get free. You'll just go around in a loop if you blame yourself, judge yourself, or anyone. But it's becoming clearer. It's like the gray is being taken out, the nezziness. And that's part of this new dimension of higher heart, or heart-based energies that are coming into the planet and being evoked through us. And the science gives us a little confirmation and nudge of, yes, it's real. It's not just some mystical or airy-fairy concept. And the scientific research on the intuition that I promised Susan and I would talk about is very, very exciting. You know, this is a study that was published in 2 back-to-back issues of the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine several years ago. And it's a study that was done first with the Institute of Noetic Sciences, who we work with a lot, and at the same time that we followed up with it and did another study that see if what they were finding was really real, if we could replicate it. And what we found is we had people all hooked up in a computer, and they had electrodes on their brain, you know, like called a brain cap, and they had heart rate variability, a pulse sensor, you know, which is our inner balance or M-wave technology, and they had galvanic skin response. We were all hooked up in front of a computer. And the computer would choose randomly, when you pushed a button, pictures. And they were either really gory, violent, bloody pictures, or they were really beautiful nature pictures of sunshine and bunny rabbits and flowers, or they were neutral pictures. And we wanted to see if there was an unconscious response in the nervous system to this. So what happened was phenomenal. The subject, and this happened across all the subjects, had a change in the heartbeat rhythm, the heartbeat evoked potential, which is a scientific term. 6 seconds prior to when the computer randomly shows the picture. In other words, the computer had not chosen anything, it was all random, but the heart knew. And the heart would then signal the brain, because a few seconds after the heart's response, the brain knew. And then a few seconds after that, the skin knew. Or the solar plexus knew, the gut feeling and the skin knew, the conscious feeling came in. And all of this is happening on a nonlinear quantum level for that to occur. And what's phenomenal about that is that validates that the heart is a receiving station for information from the field that's outside of time and space. And the heart is taking the intuitive signal, sending it to the brain mind, which then interprets it or informs the body. That's the pathway. So when we go to our hearts for the answer, what are we doing? We're tuning in to a field of information, an intuitive field. So you could say intuition is to heart as mind is to brain. So we're tuning into this other dimension, and we can learn to fine-tune that antenna. So we can receive more refined frequencies of intuition. We can receive the directions from our soul or spirit or source, and they come in as frequencies, as subtle feelings or knowing. And we can become more tuned to that, which then triggers the brain, which then triggers the body. So the heart truly is our connection, our portal to source. And of course, I could go on and on talking about that. But we spent a whole day yesterday going into the research in 5 or 6 HeartMath tools or techniques. And it was recorded, and there are guidebooks remaining, and the organizers are going to sell those and make them available to people who want that experience. And it's very rare that I do a workshop or one that's recorded or one that I give permission for people to resell for 90 days. But it's time. The world needs it. All of you, any of you who feel called in your heart. The calling is there because also through the heart is where we find our soul purpose, our blueprint, our next steps in life. And I would suggest that the techniques and tools people are learning, that learned yesterday, if used in practice, it's got to be used and stepped into, it will start to unfold whatever your next step is, because you're unfolding within you through that heart-brain alignment, through that heart coherence that powers up your heart to be able to connect with your soul and spirit and activate the higher potentials of your brain and heal your body. So if you're interested in that, you can see Susan or Katie, and she will help you. One other thing that I want to share is that part of what HeartMath started, which is all in that program I talk about, which you can learn more about it at the website, is the Global Coherence Initiative. How many of you know what that is? So it's a fantastic research initiative to really research individual coherence, social coherence, our interconnectivity when we're collectively in a coherent heart rhythm pattern together, and the impact of that on the Earth's fields with magnetic field detectors, and some of the new science. It's not just HeartMath, but there's incredible new research institutes popping up that are validating this. And you can go to glcoherence.org, that's the website.